Welcome, everyone. I am talking today with Anna, and she hosts a website, Classy Career Girl, and just wanted to welcome you today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. This is fun.
It is fun. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm the founder and CEO of classycareergirl.com, and we host online courses and meaningful content for women, whether you're job searching or starting a business. I think we have a lot of women here who are thinking of starting a business. So I'm excited to get down to some details and really help you guys move forward in your careers, in your businesses, personal life. I run a business with my husband. Actually, we're a husband and wife team. We have a daughter who's almost 2 as well. And, we just love traveling and working on our business while we travel. And it's crazy and it's fun. But I came from 8 years in a corporate career and I was just a little stuck. And so this is the life I dreamed of. And, I'm excited to kind of share some of the steps I took that are practical that really got me out of that stuck career and into now running this business that I really love.
I'm so excited to hear that because I think so many people can relate to that. They're in corporate, they're feeling like they're really not living life to the fullest. They want more freedom. And it's really, you're just plugging away the Monday through Friday thing, and your weekends are so short. And
Yes.
then you're just kind of dreading, like, oh, can I just hang on to Sunday? So that I don't have to go back to an office or a hospital or wherever it is that you're working on Monday and just like dreading that time clock of like having to go clock in. So
Yes.
that you can travel around with your husband, your family. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy, but it's fun. And I've been there. I mean, everything that you just said, like it was very, very stressful. I had, clients who wanted me to work nights and weekends, and I knew I wanted to start a family, and I just knew like this was just not going to work for me. So I spent, I think one thing we're going to talk about today is time management. Like I found time, I made time in my calendar to keep working on my passion and to really pursue this like little dream that I had, even if it was like 15 minutes a day. It's like all those baby steps. I mean, this is not just today I woke up and I have this business. Like this is work every single day that just added up over time.
I think that's such an important point, and I just have to tell you that you were so humble in your introduction that people should know. Like you've been featured on Forbes and you know Bloomberg Business Week and People and ESPN. So in taking those time steps that you talked about and creating time for it, I'm sure there was a transition from when you were still in corporate and you wanted to do this. You probably didn't just take a dive off the high dive and say, I'm just going to start my own business. There was probably a transitional period. Can you go into that a little bit since we're on this topic already of like how you kind of gradually went into having your own blog and business from being corporate?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, it all started with the blog. And so I always recommend no matter what you want to do, like start a blog, start putting your thoughts and your ideas out there, even if it's a video blog or you're interviewing people just like this. But that's really where it started. I didn't even think I would become an entrepreneur until it was about a year into blogging and people were starting to read the content that I was putting out there. And I started to read some books and some blogs and do a lot of networking. So I was interviewing, just like you are, I was interviewing other women who were in careers that I wanted to have someday. And someone said, you could make a business out of this. And it was like, oh, I could. And it was kind of like this light bulb moment of like, yeah, I can do this and I'm going to do this. I hate my job. Like, I'm going to make this happen. And I think that was key is making a decision, making a commitment, and really sticking to it. Even though I was very, very busy with my job, I was getting my MBA at that time too, which basically, it is a whole different world than like building an online business too. But I think that's really what got me started is the blog. And then once I was like making that commitment, I was going to do this, I realized I really loved teaching and training and working with people. Even in my day job that I was stuck in, the things that I really enjoyed were teaching and helping people. So I was like, how can I turn that into a career? How can I make that a business? Did some research and I was like, I could start creating a course on my own. I could start teaching people online. Online world is open internationally. You can reach people from anywhere from your computer. So I decided one day, this was kind of like my pivotal moment. I sent out an email to people I knew and I pitched a new course I was coming out with. I hadn't created it yet. I had a cool name. It was like the Get Unstuck Boot Camp, and I was really excited about it. But if no one bought it, I wasn't going to actually do it. And I remember hitting the submit button. I went into my job. I was sitting in my cubicle, and I looked down and I saw the PayPal order come through for $97. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to sell this. I have to put this together now. And you know, that's really where I started. Like I remember the girl's name. Like I'll always remember like that moment. Because that's kind of how I've run things in my business. I've kind of I've sold things and then I've created them with clients. So it's really helped me figure out what they really want, what their needs are, what their questions are, and I like create it with them. And I think that's what's really made a lot of my courses like work so well for people because it's like I'm hand holding along the way and then other people get the benefit of that too once they start to go through it.
That's awesome. So basically you sold the program and so somebody bought it for $97 on PayPal.
Yep.
And how did you get into what they wanted? You know, because you're obviously they're feeling stuck and you knew that part. You're like, I'm going to create a program to help you get unstuck. How did you get into their need and create that program?
So I'm a big fan of surveying, not just, I mean, obviously there's SurveyMonkey. I highly recommend doing that. I had a lot of surveys out already because I was trying to create content that my client or that my readers really wanted. So I knew what they were looking for. Once you're blogging, you just get these questions. You'll get these questions on Facebook. You'll get questions everywhere, just asking people what they want and then putting that into the course. So before I even started, I asked them what they were looking for in the course. So I knew what they were kind of looking for. But I also knew, I mean, you also do know what they need as well. So it's like it has to be a combination of what they want and the very beginning of walking them through what they need. So I didn't give them everything in the course. I was just really trying to guide them in that very beginning step to really figuring out what their dream career is. I think that's a common mistake. You don't want to give like everything in those first 5 modules, right?
Right.
Because then eventually they got what they needed to start with, and then they went into coaching with me, and so that's kind of how my business started. But back to your question, I really think it's important to get on the phone with people and ask them what they're frustrated are, what their dreams and desires are. Don't just rely on surveys too. Like ask people questions and just write like crazy, record the conversation, like because that's like magic. You know, you want to know what they're going through and where they are at.
That's amazing. So do you just offer a strategy call? Like how do you create that opportunity?
Strategy calls are great for this when you're trying to just get into their head or when you're just trying to figure out what they're frustrated by. I was just asking, for 15 minutes of their time so I could ask them questions. I wasn't like structuring it like, I wasn't selling them anything at the end or anything like that. It was just the sole purpose was really for them to give me what they're frustrated by,
Yeah.
So it's a little separate. That's how you're like create the course.
Okay, so how did you create your course? Was it by video? Was it by worksheets or both? Or how did you put this course together to get unstuck?
I used webinars. I love webinars. So I actually created live webinars with the people that were joining my program and just did it live with them. So that way at the end, they asked questions, and those questions were included in it. So I was kind of adding it in as we went. Workbooks, yes, we had workbooks. I used a online course platform when I first started called Ruzuku, Ruzuku, I think, which was great to get started. Eventually, I've switched to, I use Wishlist Member to host all my courses with WordPress, because I like having more control of the design and stuff like that. But you know, any way you can get started, it's just a matter of, you know, getting started, selling that first thing, putting it out there. The Get Unstuck course has now changed. That was about 4 years ago. It's now called Love Your Career Formula 2.0. But but I think it's just a neat thing to show, because I've just improved. So I think that's what it's all about too, is really gathering feedback afterwards and just improving as you go.
So you've pretty much taken feedback from, you know, people that have taken the course and then added to it afterwards?
Yeah. I actually, this summer, I had an intern come on board, and she surveyed everyone who'd already gone through it, and she even called people up. I mean, and she
Wow.
put together this huge report, including like my competition and like all these like ideas for me too. So, hey, that's an idea too. You know, having an intern come on board to do this research for you
Mm-hmm.
is a great idea too.
Yeah, that is a great idea. So how did you really promote it? Was it just to your list, or did you actually go on social? Did you place ads to this first course of yours?
No, I don't think I even knew how to do ads way back then. So no, it was email. It was just a lot of like, I was definitely on social media. I was all over. I did a lot of blogging about it. So that's the benefit of blogging for so long, is people had built this trust with me. I had given out so much free content. So that's why, even if you're not ready to start your course, like just start blogging, start doing a video, start giving as much as you can. Because then when it's time to sell your course, people like that girl just bought it immediately, because I had been sending out a weekly newsletter. So they're just waiting for you to put something out. They're waiting for you to create that course where they can actually get you one-on-one, you know, at a higher level.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so back then, I mean, eventually I've done a lot of different ways to advertise, but in the beginning, it really was just getting the word out as many places as I could. LinkedIn messages, I think that's a great place. That's sometimes overlooked as well. A lot of us have so many LinkedIn connections, and so just going through there was really good too.
Awesome. Um, I think that LinkedIn offers a more professional type of connection, because it is a lot of professional people on there. So it's just not like some of the other social media options. It offers almost a deeper connection because that person is looking for something professional, which ties in greatly to what you're doing.
Yeah, I've used LinkedIn to fill some events that I've had in San Diego too, because you can really target, you know, who's in San Diego. I can see what their job titles are and just send those people messages too. So it's great.
Oh, that's great because, you know, it's a personal message. It's not just like throwing out an ad like, "Hey, if you're in San Diego, you might want to come to this." So
Exactly.
that's good. That's a deeper relationship with it. So you ended up building your course out. You did webinars and you answered questions, and now you host it on a site like Wishlist. Are there
Yes.
any other apps or things that you recommend people use? Like, what's your webinar platform? And is there anything else that's good for people to use when building out said course?
Yeah. So I use instant teleseminars now for my group coaching calls. Anytime I need to record a call, and then you can use that for webinars too. My first one was GoToWebinar. I found GoToWebinar just a little clunky for me, so I love instant teleseminar. I know there's some newer ones in the market, but I have yet to test them out. So I love those. Yeah, there's a ton of I can't think of any off the top of my head. I use Time Trade. Time Trade is huge, to book all of my calls. That's how we scheduled this call. So when you're dealing with time zones, like it's really nice to instead of going back and forth on email, I just have my calendar open and people can just book. So that saves me a lot of time as well.
That's great. So
Yeah.
those are great resources. So on your site, you have different programs that do help people out. It looks like you have for people to love the career that they're in, or if they want to take it, and follow the path that you did to going to be an entrepreneur and really loving that path. So, can you talk to me about that program that helps support the person who wants to be an entrepreneur?
Definitely. Yeah. So through this whole process of creating the Get Unstuck Bootcamp and the Love Your Career Formula, this whole like journey that I was on, it really allowed me to see how to start a business and how to take that side hustle, which I had when I had that day job, and really turn it into a full-time business.
Hmm.
And I started getting all these questions about how I did this, how I did this, how I did this. And I was actually in my room one day. I was journaling. I was having a really tough time. My daughter was like 5 months old. My husband hadn't joined us yet. I hardly had any childcare. And I was like, what am I going to do? Like, I need to do something out. Like, there's this transition that really needed to happen in my life, which really was building the corporate rescue plan, which really was just helping women make that same transition that I did. And it was kind of putting myself in a different spot. I was always like job search, job search. And so I think that sometimes when there's like something in you, you need to get it out. And
Right.
that's like that time where like things just were like really all coming to a head and I just needed to get that out. So that is where the corporate rescue plan was born. And basically it walks you through how to start a business. And the biggest point is building the business plan. So when I was trying to build my business plan, I looked all over for business plans.
Right.
Like, sure, everyone has done that Google search, right? Where it's like, it's just me building a business. I don't need venture capital. My business school had business plans, but I was like, they scared me. Like, that just didn't fit my business model. And so, what each of the steps do is it really helps you put together your business plan for building an online business. So, we cover the purpose of your business, your purpose, why you're building a business. We cover, your mission, your values. We cover your program, your product, and then how you're going to promote it as well. And then we cover how you're going to make a profit as well. So all the things I've learned of like really building up that profit, really building the plans. I feel like that's something that's really missing. It's not just like throwing up an ad and, making and doing a webinar. It's like you really have to put together your model and like your sales funnel, which we were talking about earlier, so that you really know how many clients you need in order to make that leap. You really know your budget, your expenses. Like there's so much stuff that I needed to have a grasp of when I finally quit my job so that I could make that leap and not be like scared for what was going to happen.
That makes sense, and it sounds like a lot of things that people need to get together. So if you offer that at one spot, then people don't have to do the Google searching of this and that and not knowing how to put that together. So it sounds like that's valuable. And it also sounds like you have a system. Like, can you speak on that a little bit of like, how does one look at what you're doing and, start down that road? Like, what do they need to do to build that system?
Yeah, and a lot of it is the 5 Ps to a profitable business are the kind of those 5 Ps that I just walked through. It's the purpose, people, program, and profit, and your program and promotion, I think I said. So those are the most important, but there's so much like before all that too. A lot of it is the mindset and the time management. So we spend a lot of time in like the pre-work section, which is really getting your mind ready, really getting your time ready. Time is the biggest issue that I think a lot of us face when we do have that day job. And so really figuring out your schedule, your focus time, when you're going to make an effort for your business, and then really walking step by step through. So what the corporate rescue plan does, it's not just, it's these 5 Ps. We have like planning weeks and action weeks. And so, 1 week we're really working on your purpose. Like, why are you starting this business? What's your values? What's your mission? But then the next week we're working on your website, and so it's like, It's really all the steps, that's the forward movement steps that really complete your business plan. And then by module 11 is the business plan. Module 12 is figuring out your resignation, writing the letter, benefits, insurance, like all that stuff, 401k, like what do we do? All that stuff that kind of walks you through actually how to quit the job, like, little stuff like how do you handle, telling your boss you're leaving, just little stuff that's really exciting, but also really scary at the same time too.
Right.
So all that's kind of factored in. And then we have a lot of advanced stuff too. So, basically everything I've learned about guest posting and live events and social media and like all that stuff is in there too. So it's fun to have a place to kind of put your brain, like everything you learn yourself, and put it in there for the members in there to really get that fast track and save time. I mean, that's what it all comes down to. Like 1 year faster, 30 days faster, 60 days faster, to be able to increase your income so that you can make that leap. And the most important thing is the women that I work with are usually women who want to make an impact and change lives and make a difference. And so that's my mission. Like if you get out there 90 days faster, you're going to change a lot more lives than if you didn't, So time is big.
Yeah, that's true. I saw a quote and it says, "We all have the same amount of hours in the day as Beyonce." It cracked me up because the woman gets so much done.
Yeah.
And speaking of timelines, like, can you just give us a window of like, you decided to like tinker around with blogging?
Yeah.
And like, what was the time frame of you starting to blog and then developing this whole full-fledged, like, I'm quitting my job and doing my own business?
Yeah, I mean, it's a journey for sure. I think it was 2010. My blog started in March of 2010. And I, about 2 years in, 2 to 3 years in, is when I was like, okay, I'm going to make this a business. And then really for about a year, I was kind of doing both. But the big thing really wasn't, I hadn't made the commitment. I hadn't really made the decision. I was kind of still researching careers. So I wasn't really ready to go all in. And I think the magic time for me was when I really made that commitment to myself, when I invested in coaching for myself to really get the skills and the coaching I needed to figure out how I was going to make this business happen. That's kind of where everything shifted for me. I got a business coach. I learned technically like how I was supposed to do this. And I think it was like a week into the coaching, I did a webinar and like made a bunch of sales after the webinar. And I was like, it's like, just, they can say like one thing and you just change how you're doing something, and it just changes everything. So that was really, really big. And then in between all of that too, like my daughter was born. So that kind of changed things up a little bit. I was going to quit faster, and then we decided we are just going to, take some time through maternity leave and not make any like crazy decisions.
Right.
So it really was the right time. I didn't go back after maternity leave. Took a couple months off, quit my job, and then made this business work too on the side. And that's something, if you want to dive into sales funnels too, we can talk about that in my maternity leave if you want to talk about that.
Oh, I'd love to. Absolutely. Yeah. So how did you set that all up, and how did it translate into, creating an automatic system for you?
Yeah. So I love this example because, I mean, when you go on maternity leave, I was a new mom. I knew enough to know that it was going to take over my life and everything was going to change. So I knew I was blogging almost every day. I was like, I'm going to have to stop on this. I'm going to have to stop on all this social media. So before I went on maternity leave, I did pre-schedule a lot of my blog content. It was not every day, but there was still some things. I recycled some content. We all have lots of content. So I recycled some, had some going out for the 2 months that I was going to try and take off for maternity leave. And then what I also did while I was on maternity leave is I had a Facebook ad running to a video. And I did the video, pre-recorded it, talked about my system. At that time, it was the 7-step Get Unstuck system. talked through the system, and then at the end, I gave them a link to schedule a session with me, to fill out an application to schedule a session. I think somewhere I put, I'm having a baby. I'm not going to get back to you that quickly. But that was running the Facebook ad to the video to the application. And when I came back 2 months later, I had 50 applications, 50 people who wanted to talk to me about making their career dreams happen. And I led that into a webinar, and then that's kind of where we launched Love Your Career Formula 2.0. But so I hope you see like how all that was automatic. Like I wasn't actually doing anything while I was on that leave, but I was able to come back and have these people who had already watched my video, had consumed my blog content, were really excited to talk to me in a good place to launch their dreams, careers, and make change in their lives. So then when I got on the phone with them, they already knew me, they already liked me, they had already trusted me. But that was, I love talking about that because you can do it.
That's awesome. So really, it was just shooting a quick video that led to you capturing the lead. They ended up, like, if they wanted to take the next step, they actually had to fill out an application. And then it sounds like the follow-up process was you actually getting on the phone with them, or?
Yeah, so those people that filled out the application, I was doing the free strategy sessions with them, really listening to their frustrations and really figuring out if I could help them, giving them my recommendation into the program that I was launching. But because I did have a lot of leads coming in that didn't fill out the application as well. So I did a webinar, invited all those leads as well. And so it's kind of like a combination of people I spoke to and then also the webinar. And that's really what led to like my highest earning month was like the month after I quit too, which is with a baby somehow. I managed that, but
that was great affirmation that you were doing the right thing. You know,
I know.
You're like, okay, I don't regret it. Like it's a big plunge.
It is. And that's why you do. I mean, I had that plan in place before I quit. So I have people coming to me and they're like, I'm just going to quit. And I'm always like, okay, can you just hold on? Let's create the business plan first, you know?
That's funny. They're just like so ready to be done, but there's all these steps that need to happen first. You were mentioning that you blogged, daily. So is that necessary to really have a blog that takes off, or can people do once a week? So say if they're still in their job, what's the frequency that you usually recommend that they're moonlighting in their own business and trying to develop a course and that type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I am lucky to do daily now, and we have guest contributors that are helping us with the daily, putting out a lot of great content. But when you're just getting started, it's baby steps. But there are a lot of platforms now where you can just do little stuff. I know for me, I love helping people. So my day got started really well if I could wake up and help someone, whether that's a blog post or a video. It improved my mood for the day. Like I was a happier person when I did that in the morning. So you might start to see the more you're like doing your passion, even if it's in the morning, if you have a little bit of time, if you can make it consistent, at least try for every week blog post or an every week video, because people really like to see that consistency. But there's so many ways you can do it now. I mean, there's Periscope, there's Snapchat, there's Instagram, so it doesn't need to be this long drawn out blog post. So just give 15 seconds of advice. What's your best advice? Put it on Twitter. There's your content, when you think of it, just put it out.
That's awesome. That's great advice because it makes it sound doable.
Yeah.
Because I think when people think like, oh my God, I don't have time to write, 1,000-word blog post every day or something. But if you're just giving what's in your mind already and it's, your passion, then it's not, something that's undoable, and I think people like the live better. All of our social media is headed that way. We have Facebook Live, we have Periscope, and you can pretty much have your own TV station now.
There's so many opportunities right now, for sure. And you can even, blogging for me, I loved writing. So that was my, communication tool of choice. But there are other ways, if you have writer's block, like just turn on the video camera and start talking,
Yeah.
if you like like small tweets, like there's a way to put your tweets on your blog later, or you can just do Instagram photos and put, with quotes that you love, put those on your blog later. There's a way to recycle in your content, whichever format you love the most.
So do you write with purpose? So say you're going to post a blog post. Do you write with the purpose of trying to attract your perfect person that you want to help to you and that could eventually lead into your program? And how do you go about, planning those posts if you do?
Yeah, so we have over 1,200 posts right now. So for me,
Wow.
it's a little different now because I'm like, I already wrote about that. I already wrote about that. So I'm trying to improve old content. I recently went back to 2010, found a post and updated it, created a Pinterest image, put it on Pinterest, and now it's one of our most pinned articles.
Wow.
So that's my strategy, is kind of recycling some of the old stuff. But I also have noticed some new like frustrations that my ideal clients are going through as well. So that's on my to-do list for sure, is to start creating some more of that content that really hits. It's not as much of the how-to. We got a lot of how-to on our website. But it's really thinking more about like the internal stuff that they're going through, rather than how to do this, how to do this, how to do this too. So I think that's important, is really goes back to the surveying we were talking about, is like, where are they? Like I'm in a very different place now than I was where my clients are now. And so you really have to put yourself back there, really think about it. Every time I write a newsletter or a blog post, like it's just like, okay, remember that time I was sitting in this cubicle, just really, really going back there. And that's how I produce my best stuff.
That's awesome. And so do you recommend someone that's starting out is to have more strategic plan and then eventually, once they get that more, get more content, they could ask for contributing authors and that type of thing to create more consistency?
Yeah, I did that in the very beginning. I guest posted for other places, other people guest posted for me. I think it adds a lot of it depends on what you're building. Like I'm building a brand. Classy Career Girl is a brand. So I want other people's ideas on there too. And so it's not all about me. That's kind of a shift that I've been making. But people, I mean, I hear all the time, of course I love my own writing, but I hear people say, I really like that there's other people writing now. I'm like, happy. I'm like, you don't like my writing, but it's just, I write a different way than everyone else. I could never write about, like, someone wrote about like, how to job search during their commute. Like I'm not job searching right now, so I can't share that. But
Right.
the article just adds so much more to my blog content. So I mean, we have interviews now, we interview other women, and post that too. So it adds something unique and different.
Yeah, I agree with that. It sounds like it adds so much value for the people that aren't in that, you know, place yet, that they're working from anywhere and traveling with their family and doing the things that they might want to do. They may be doing both or just starting. So it keeps their perspective and everything, especially if it's been a couple of years since you have done your own thing. You're like, oh yeah, that career thing. Like,
Yep, definitely, definitely. So yeah, it's kind of all in the courses too, but I'm not actively like running that too. So and like teaching that. But yeah, it's an interesting journey, that's for sure.
so one of the things, that I read about is that you created a significant vision for what you wanted and then created the time around that. And I think what a lot of people struggle with is that there's this huge to-do list and they'll almost check off, they'll do the things that are easier to do, but not necessarily the things that actually move the needle forward. So can you talk a little bit about like how to prioritize that and how to tie it in with that vision that you created? It sounded like it was so, clear to you of what you wanted.
Yeah, the vision is huge. So I would recommend everyone, after they get off of this, write down what your ideal workday looks like. Like if everything was going how you want it to look like, what time would you wake up? What would you do at first thing in the morning? Would you go for a run? Would you have breakfast with your family? Where would you work? Like what do you want your office space to look like? So I think knowing what you want and having it written down is really, really important. And then it goes into also, I always recommend like creating kind of like that purpose for your company. Like what is your company all about? Like what is that one sentence that your company does? Like Classy Career Girl, we help women find jobs and start businesses. Like it's now you know what I do.
Right.
And so having that, and then also having kind of like that mission, like we want to help 2,000 women by 2018 start businesses and find jobs they love. So all of that, like now you know even more what I do, and it just kind of like personalizes your company and your brand even more. And we also come out with our values too. So we kind of, our whole team kind of knows what we're working towards and what we want to do. So that's the first part. That's kind of creating your vision. But as far as time goes, I was looking because I have, oh, there I have it. I have my every Sunday evening, I put together my plan for the week. And so that's really where I list like my top 3 priorities, some of like the admin stuff that I need to get done that week, things I don't want to forget, people I need to call, people I need to email. So my Sunday night planning time is like gold for me. Like if I miss it, my week is just a disaster. And I've tried to, now my husband and I do it together. So we both kind of know what our priorities are for the week, what we're working towards. We have 2 virtual assistants in the Philippines as well that help us. And so that's our time to kind of look at what their tasks are, look at what they're doing, what they're set up for the week, that they have everything that they need. And then Monday is a crazy call day. We do stuff like this all day. So it gets us just started off on the right track.
That sounds great, and it sounds like it's so much more efficient at laying out your week, and you know where you have to be when and what you need to be doing. And you did mention that you have 2 virtual assistants, and I'm just kind of curious, at what point in your business did you decide to outsource some of what you were doing, and what are the types of functions that they're doing for you?
I knew you were going to ask that when I said that. Everyone asks about the virtual assistants, because it is kind of like a wow, but very early. Like that was one of my first hires, was hiring my first assistant, Laura, in the Philippines. And I was cash flowing it, so I had some advertising money coming in, and it wasn't, it's not crazy expensive. So you just have to, instead of like, oh my gosh, like just investigate these things before they like scare you. Just look into them. I do, baby steps. But so what she helped me with in the beginning, I was getting a lot of requests for advertising, for, partnerships and all this stuff. And as we know, as entrepreneurs, you have to start saying no to things. And so that I couldn't work on my business because I was responding to email all day, in the morning and at night. And that's all the 2 times I had to work on my business because I had a full-time job. So in the beginning, she handled my email. She really helped with some of my blog content. She helped a lot with pictures, getting pictures on the blog, making the articles look pretty, helping me with a lot of like WordPress stuff that I couldn't figure out. So instead of me spending hours and hours, like I would just give it to her before I went to bed. And a lot of times I would be able to wake up and it'd be done because she would work when I sleep, she works. And so I've had the one virtual assistant for 4 years now. We just hired our second one just this last month. So, but yeah, she really helped me learn how to manage, treat myself as a real business owner. I think when you have someone else helping you, then you can just really give yourself the space to really be a business owner and entrepreneur. And I can share the link of where I got my assistants for you as well, so you can share with your group too.
Oh, that would be awesome. I would really appreciate that. So we'll
Definitely.
link to it below. And you also have a webinar that you have, invited the audience to.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. So that's going to go even deeper into really how to start your business. We go into a lot of the mistakes that women or men and women entrepreneurs make when they're first starting their business. We touched on a little bit of it today, but that will dive even deeper on all more of the mistakes and then really lay out this system for how you can really build your business plan.
That sounds great. It sounds like I want to go to this webinar.
Hey, please
Just
do.
just to refine everything. So I'll link to it below.
Perfect.
And, I just want to thank you so much for spending your time with us today.
Definitely. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. So I'm excited for what you're doing too. This is going to help a lot of women.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm hoping that it helps a lot of people just wanting to become an entrepreneur who, maybe even like stuck their pinky toe in the water of being an entrepreneur and just haven't had it all figured out yet. Or even that person, like you were a few years ago, just at corporate, like, I don't think this like serves the rest of my purpose. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm hoping for is that it gives just a ton of value. So I thank you for your time today. I had a good time.
Definitely. Yeah, it was fun. Thank you.